Good morning. On behalf on behalf of the Bontrager family, I would like to thank you all for coming in today. We gather here today to celebrate the life of Wilma Bontrager, and we are also grateful for her relationship with our Lord Jesus and the loving life in which she lived, displaying God's love. We gather here to remember, to tell stories, but we also gather to bring glory to God. During her last few years here on earth, Wilma worked hard on reciting Psalm 100 from memory. And so would you join me this morning in reading that? You can find that on the inside cover of your memory card. Let us read that together. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord is God, and it is he that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people, and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him, and bless his name. For the Lord is good, and his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endures for all generations. Would you join with us in singing, Great is Thy Faithfulness? You can find that in the blue hymnal, 327.
morning. Wilma Troyer Bontrager, beloved mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, aunt, and friend, passed away peacefully at her home near Fairview, Michigan on August 4th, 2022, at the age of 101. Wilma was born at the family home on Kittle Road near Mayo, Michigan on May 19th, 1921. She accepted Christ as her Savior in her youth and joined the Fairview Mennonite Church. She and Lyle, her husband of 68 years, raised their family in Clare, Michigan. She took classes at Mid-Michigan Community College for her CNA and was employed at the Clare Nursing Home. In 1980, after 30 years, they moved back to the Fairview area, where she also worked at the Osable Valley Nursing Home for a time. She was a member of the Fairview Mennonite Church. She and Lyle were supporters of Mennonite Disaster Service and volunteered after several disasters. They spent their winters in the Sunny Breeze community near Arcadia, Florida, where they met cherished, lifelong friends. She attended Sunny Breeze Christian Fellowship and enjoyed the many activities there as recently as this past winter. She and her cousin Cleta biked many miles together around Lake Erie at Sunny Breeze, usually a mile at a time. Wilma was admired as an excellent quilter, avid reader, and gardener. She loved growing beautiful flowers. In the past 2 years, she crocheted over 60 Afghans, gifting them to her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, as well as donating some for fundraisers. In June of this year, she rode her trike 2.5 miles at a fundraiser, raising over $1,000 in pledges for Love, Inc., a local Christian service organization. She was known for her quiet, gentle nature, secure in her faith, and love of Jesus. Surviving are son Walden Lyle Bontrager and wife Julie of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, daughters Laura, Diane, Doobie, and husband Carl of Fairview, Michigan, Linda K. Hawkins of Clare, Michigan, and daughter-in-law Lynn Ann Kent Bontrager of Joplin, Missouri. There are 6 grandchildren: Jason David Hawkins, wife Caitlin, Jacob Benjamin Hawkins and wife Danielle, Justin Troy Bontrager and fiancée Christina, Corey Beth Johnson and husband Carl, John Michael Bontrager and wife Rachel, and Jennifer Lynn Ettinger and husband Ryan. Wilma has 10 great-grandsons: William Wallace Bontrager, Jordan Thomas Hawkins, Louis Jones Bontrager, James Jack Sterling Johnson, Easton Jacob Hawkins, Mac Jameson Bontrager, Eli Robert Ettinger, Joseph Lyle Hawkins, Emmett Edgar Ettinger, and Caspian Theodore Johnson. And she was eagerly anticipating the arrival of her first great-granddaughter in December. Wilma was preceded in death by her parents, Samuel L. and Katie Gasho Troyer, her brothers, Era and Levi, her sisters Anna Sharp and Sibylla Handrich, her husband, Lyle Edgar Bontrager, her daughter, Beverly Ann Bontrager, and son, Wallace Samuel Bontrager. And for those still interested, memorial gifts may be made to the Fairview Mennonite Church Women's Sewing Group, Mennonite Disaster Service, or the charity of your choice. We'll now move into the open mic sharing time. There is a mic, of course, up here at the front, and I also understand there will be a mobile mic if anyone doesn't want to come up to the front. And I'll kick that off. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jason Hawkins. I'm Wilma and Lyle's oldest grandson. Wilma was the only grandmother that I knew, and I just feel so fortunate that the Lord blessed me with her as a grandma. Just everything that you could want: loving, caring, doting, patient. I think that one of the lines that stood out for me in the obituary was being known for her quiet, gentle nature, and that really resonated with me because I'm sure there were times that me, my brother, my cousins tested that patience or annoyed or even angered her, but I cannot for the life of me remember a single instance of her getting upset with us, and that's, remarkable. She always made sure when we visited that the cookie jar was full, and if not every year, several years, at Christmas time, one of the gifts that she would give her grandchildren were homemade pajamas. And as the number grew, this became quite a task, and of course, varying sizes. And the interesting thing was that she would do different colors over the years. So if you kind of think of it as renewing your vehicle registration every year, you get that new color sticker, and so there's kind of always that anticipation of what would this year's color be. And you would go through kind of the more traditional colors, the reds, the blues, the golds. I remember maroon. And then there came a year, and I don't know if I was quite a teenager, but I was quickly approaching it. And it was the pink year. And I don't know if she had just run out of other colors, or maybe it was something special for my female cousins. But it is something to this day that some friends gave me a hard time about, just because, as you can imagine, it's kind of a funny picture in pink pajamas. But I know they were made and given with love, so it's still something that we cherish. And the last thing I'll say is, kind of in the last several years, just a different appreciation I had for her as started my own family, and just the respect for the example that she set, a godly woman and wife. And I'm just so thankful that she lived long enough to meet my wife, Caitlin, and I know they spent some time together just talking about life, and I know that's something that Caitlin cherishes very much, and it's something that I'm very grateful for too. She was a wonderful woman, we'll miss very much. Thank you.
So as the oldest grandson went first, we get to go first this part. So anyway, this is called Wilma's Long Journey Home. Carter and Ralph Stanley were born in the same decade as Wilma Troyer. The Stanley brothers and the Clinch Mountain Boys were legendary artists and helped form what is now bluegrass music. They were the first of over 300 artists to record the song Long Journey Home. And I don't even remember the Stanley Brothers version, but when the flat-picking guitar player named Dan Crary recorded it, I paid attention. Simple lyrics and lots of room for some amazing instrumental improvisations. It was great. Verses go. One verse of it. There's black smoke arising, and it surely is a train. Surely is a train, boys. Surely is a train. There's black smoke arising, and it surely is a train. I'm on my long journey home. So I've always associated trains and long journeys, and that's what this is. So as I thought about the passing of my dear mother-in-law, Wilma Troyer Bontrager, the words long journey home just kept surfacing. Having lived 101 years, 2 months, and 16 days, it had been a long journey. The majority of those years revolved around loving and caring for others. One of her earliest jobs was for some wealthy families down in the Midland area, caring for children, cooking, cleaning, and just in general caring for the well-being of the families. After her marriage to Lyle Bontrager, she was soon caring for her own children and family, as well as Lyle. As Jason referred to, her calm, loving, and gracious ways soon made her, in this multifaceted role, soon made her appreciated by her family and friends and community. As her children needed less and less daily care, as Jason also talked about, she became certified to provide health care and worked to take care of patients in Clare, Michigan.
We received this message last week from Wilma Sherlow. I want to express my love and appreciation for Wilma Bontrager as a dear and very valued CNA at Clare Nursing Home. There were staff members who were dear to my heart for their devotion and care for our elderly residents. She had commitment and passion. Wilma will always be remembered as one of the best. I pray for God's comfort for all of you. Sincerely, Wilma Shirley Phillips.
I need to get this. It was about this time that she met me, her first son-in-law, husband of her oldest daughter, Laura. And through the next 49 years, she heaped ample measures of love and care on me. Her trademark hugs to welcome travelers home and to bless loved ones as they headed out the door away from her, I certainly welcomed, and I know a lot of other people welcomed them as well. Another verse. Homesick and lonesome, and I'm feeling kind of blue. Feeling kind of blue, boys, I'm feeling kind of blue. Homesick and lonesome, I'm feeling kind of blue. I'm on my long journey home. As she traveled on her long journey, she encountered difficulties, including the deaths of a son, Wallace, the death of her husband, and the death of a daughter, Beverly. The burden of those losses was apparent to anyone who really knew Wilma. But despite that, she continued to show her love and caring for friends, family, strangers, and especially her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and she was really pleased with the news that there would soon be a great-granddaughter. And she doesn't get to see her, but she'll see her. Anyway. In the final years of Wilma's journey, her thought turned more towards her final destination in heavenly home. Still, she remained alert to what was going on around her and interested in what was happening to her family and friends. Her strong will to be productive, especially to do something that benefited someone else, resulted in her crocheting all those Afghans. For family, friends, and for the Northern Michigan Relief Sale. There's a story there. I'll tell you if you ask me. I'm blessed to have received one of those for my birthday on November of 2020. And the warmth that that Afghan brings is a cherished reminder of those hugs that we got from her. It was great. Last verse. It's dark and raining, and I want to go home. I want to go home, boys. I want to go home. It's dark and raining, and I want to go home. I'm on my long journey home. As Wilma's condition deteriorated, it often felt like a dark time was coming. Wilma did not communicate with us during her final several days. However, there were times, as care was being given, that she would rouse, her eyes would open, and she would stare. I don't know what she was staring at. I don't know what she was thinking. And there's no theological basis for it, but I choose to think that she was looking at her final destination, last few steps of her long journey home. But after her final breath, that darkness never materialized. It was never there. Instead, we saw a woman, much beloved, at peace. She was no longer struggling to breathe. Her heart and body were at rest. And as her body was removed from the house, there was sadness, but also relief that her long journey home was complete. From several conversations over the years, we believe, that she is extremely happy that she is no longer keeping us with our obligations apart. We're back together. We know that we've been blessed to be able to give Wilma the care that she needed. An amazing blessing, holy place. But as we move forward, we will no doubt think of how Wilma would appreciate hearing about the stories of our latest journey, and she'll still be watching that address from above. Thank you. Next up, welcome to share all your stories, either down there if you're more comfortable, or up here. Or the one that
Testing. Everyone got me?
Yep.
Hey, good morning. Jacob Hawkins, second oldest grandson of Lila and Wilma. So Jason stole my thunder a little bit, but it was kind of a great segue. So I think Grandma was the best of something for a lot of people. I think the best cook, sorry Mom. Certainly the best baker, as Jason mentioned. Best quilter, as we all know. But one of the things that I kept thinking about is something that Jason mentioned. In my entire, lifespan, I don't think that I ever saw her raise her voice, get upset, and just always had nothing but positive and nice things about every situation. Never heard her say a bad word negative about anything or anybody. And so to get to kind of Jason's segue about opportunities to test her patience and test her will with that, something that I still feel terrible about to this day, but I had to been probably the age of my kids, somewhere between 5 and 7. Grandma and I were fishing off of her dock at the house here in Fairview, just the two of us. And I put my fishing pole back to cast it, and I put the hook right in the back of her bare calf. And I tensed up. Not a peep, not a word, not a scold. She reached back, pulled it out, and said, "Try it again." That was Grandma, right? Love you, Grandma.
So what Jacob said about Wilma being the best cook, she made the absolute best fresh blueberry pies I've ever tasted in my whole life. And at the Bontrager reunions, quite often, guess who got a blueberry pie all to themselves? Me, because I would often tell her, "Wilma, you make the best blueberry pie I've ever tasted." And so she would always bring me one, which I will never forget that. And I've tried making fresh blueberry pies, and they're good, but there's something missing that Wilma did. I don't know. A couple of years ago, I had the privilege of spending a week with her down in Florida, and it was really fun. I remember, especially when we would ride on the golf cart, I'd hang on for dear life, because that lady knew how to drive a golf cart. Go down that hill, and I'd be like, "Wilma, I'm hanging on." So I loved her. She was a beautiful, beautiful woman, and I'm grateful she was part of my life.
I'm Lynn. I'm Wallace's widow, and he teased his mother a lot. And one of the things I can remember that she would say to him was, "You're so weird," or something like that. She said, "You're weird." And I have friends that would complain to me about their mother-in-laws, and I would be like, "My mother-in-law's the best. I've had a great mother-in-law. She never, ever let on that maybe there was something that she didn't particularly care about how I did things. Never, ever." And I always thought she liked me. And one of the things, too, that I remember is that she would bake sugar cookies, really fat sugar cookies, and Lebkuchen. Did I say that right? And she would mail them to us. And I know that Wallace loved getting his mother's cookies at Christmas time, because he always had his cookies with his cereal in the morning, and he would have his grandmother's cookies there. So that was a cool memory.
I'm Phil Bontrager. My dad was Lyle's first cousin, real close in age, so Emerson and Roberta had a lot of fun with Lyle and Wilma and Lyle, and we got to know their children too. We always appreciated that relationship. And about 6 or 7 or 8 years ago, I was in Grand Marais, and on my way back downstate, apparently Laura had texted me an invitation to stop in Fairview for a meal, and I had a dumb phone, and I didn't get her text. But I don't know, an hour or two out of Fairview, she called me and asked, "Are you coming or not?" I said, "What? Didn't you get my text?" I said, "No, I don't get text." So she invited me, and they held dinner for me till, I don't know, it was later than what they expected. I think at any rate, when I got to Laura and Carl's house, Wilma was there. She said, "What took you so long?" I said, "Well, I didn't get her text because I have a dumb phone. I'm not smart enough for a smartphone." She said, "What do you mean by that?" She said, "I'm over 90 years old, and if I can learn to use a smartphone, you can too." So we had a good laugh, and she had a good sense of humor, and we appreciated that.
I'm Cynthia. As the older I get, the more I realize that the older women in my life have been mentors to me. And Wilma was one that was always pleasant, always cheerful. I mean, even when we were little and we would be at their house, she was always pleasant and cheerful and welcoming. And I just appreciate her wonderful spirit, and I don't think she even knew, that she was an example to the younger ones. A few years ago at the relief sale, I was watching Shirley and Wilma and Millie. They were talking about their grandchildren, and one of them said, "Here, I'll show you a picture," and they all got on their phones, and it was kind of a race to see who could pull up the pictures quickest, and Wilma won. So.
Good morning. My name is Fran. I'm Carl's sister. The Doobies are a rather close family, and we were very, very glad to always call Wilma as a member of her Doobie connection down in Texas. So my husband and I came today to represent the Doobie family, and I'm here to tell you that Wilma will be missed dearly by the Doobies in Texas, and it's an honor to be here today and represent them here.
Hello, Patty McGregor and my husband Terry. We were privileged to live right next door to Laura's mother last year. And we knew Laura, I think it was in the 80s, and Carl, when they attended Lombard Mennonite Church near Chicago. And talk about spunk, she had it. we see her ride her bike before I even was out of my nightgown sometimes in the winter. And we would get invited later in the evening to play Rummy Cube. And though she might not have been able to tell the colors